The galaxy had defeated countless civilizations. It had crushed empires that existed long before humans ever built their first rockets. Entire species had learned one painful truth. When the powerful move, the weak step aside. But on a quiet morning aboard a neutral space station, one ordinary human made a choice that no alien strategist, no royal advisor, and no ancient empire had ever predicted. And that single moment forced the entire galaxy to ask a terrifying question. What happens when humans refuse to step aside? A man no one noticed. Gateway Halo Station floated in the empty space between three rival alien territories. It was a place built for fragile peace. Massive trade ships moved slowly through glowing docking rings. Alien merchants shouted prices in strange languages. Security drones drifted through the air like silent insects. Every species came here because no one trusted anyone else enough to meet anywhere else. Among the thousands of workers on the station was a quiet human engineer named Elias Verne. Elias was not famous. He was not rich. And he was definitely not important. His job was simple. When something broke, Elias fixed it. Power failures. Oxygen leaks. Plasma overloads. Anything that threatened the fragile systems keeping the station alive. Most days, nobody even noticed he existed. Elias preferred it that way. Quiet problems were easier to solve. A dangerous arrival. But today was not quiet. Royal banners glowed across the central concourse. Security forces from 5 different alien governments guarded the docking sectors. Because one of the most powerful rulers in the galaxy was arriving. The Aurelian Queen. Her civilization controlled hundreds of star systems and possessed technology so advanced that most species treated them with cautious respect. Some even feared them. But the Queen was not traveling alone. For the first time in decades, she had brought her only daughter, the Aurelian Princess. And wherever royal blood traveled, danger followed. Elias sighed as he checked the power grid near Dock 7. Royal visits meant stress. Stress meant mistakes. Mistakes meant disasters. He tapped his wrist console, scanning the plasma stabilizer network. Everything looked normal. Until suddenly, his console vibrated sharply. A warning signal flashed. Unauthorized energy fluctuation detected. Elias frowned. That was impossible. Dock 7 was protected by 3 levels of alien security systems. No one could tamper with it. He scanned again. The warning spike appeared again. Higher this time. His stomach tightened. Something was wrong. Very wrong. The explosion that changed everything. Across the docking platform, the Aurelian royal ship was landing. It was unlike any vessel Elias had ever seen. The ship looked almost alive. Its surface shimmered with soft light, like breathing metal grown from crystal. A long ramp extended from its hull. Alien guards formed ceremonial lines as the Queen stepped onto the station. She was tall and calm, radiating absolute authority. Behind her walked the princess. Younger. Curious. Less guarded. And completely unaware that danger was seconds away. Elias stared at his console. The power spike doubled. Then tripled. His breath stopped. Someone had rerouted the station's energy grid. Deliberately. A hidden charge was building inside Dock 7. And when it reached critical level, the entire docking platform would explode. Elias didn't call security. There wasn't time. He ran. Guards shouted warnings as he crossed restricted lines. Security drones flashed red. Alien officers yelled orders. But Elias ignored them all. Because the timer in his head was already counting down. 5 seconds. 4. 3. The explosion came before he reached the ramp. Light swallowed the dock. The ground tore apart with a thunderous blast. Metal twisted. Fire erupted into the air. Alien guards were thrown across the platform like broken dolls. Elias hit the ground hard. His ears rang as smoke filled the air. For a moment, the universe was silent. Then he saw her. A decision no one expected. The princess was trapped. Part of the ramp had collapsed during the explosion. A massive section of alien alloy pinned her beneath it. Flames burned around her as the ship's core began to destabilize. Alien guards hesitated. The fire was dangerous. The reactor was unstable. Their training told them to retreat. But Elias didn't know alien military rules. He only saw someone who was about to die. Ignoring the pain in his body, he forced himself to stand. The heat burned his skin as he ran toward the wreckage. The metal was hot enough to melt tools. But Elias grabbed it anyway. He pulled. Nothing moved. The princess stared at him with glowing eyes, shocked that a fragile human had come so close. Elias gritted his teeth. "Don't move," he said quietly. He wasn't even sure she understood him. But somehow she stayed still. He pulled again. The metal shifted slightly. Behind them, alarms began screaming. The ship's core was collapsing. Another explosion could happen any second. Elias finally tore the wreckage loose. The princess fell forward into his arms. At that exact moment, the second blast hit. Without thinking, Elias wrapped his body around her, shielding her with his own. Fire swallowed the dock. And then, darkness. Awakening before a queen. When Elias opened his eyes again, everything felt quiet. Too quiet. Soft blue light filled the room. Alien symbols glowed across smooth crystal walls. His body felt heavy but strangely healed. Someone was speaking nearby. "He survives." Another voice answered calmly. "He should not." Elias slowly turned his head. And froze. Standing at the edge of the chamber was the Aurelian queen. Beside her stood the princess. Alive. Unharmed. Watching him. The queen stepped forward. Her gaze was sharp enough to cut steel. "You are the human," she said calmly. "The one who chose to stand between death and my daughter." Elias swallowed. "Yes." The queen studied him in silence. Then she spoke words that would soon echo across the entire galaxy. "Because of you, my daughter lives. And in Aurelian law, a debt of royal blood cannot be repaid with gratitude." Her eyes locked onto his. "It must be repaid with destiny." Elias had faced many dangers before. Explosions. Vacuum breaches. Deadly system failures. But nothing had ever frightened him more than what the queen said next. "I will offer you something no human has ever been offered." And across the galaxy, entire civilizations were already watching. The entire chamber remained silent after the queen spoke. Even the alien advisors standing behind her looked tense, as if they understood that something enormous was about to happen. Elias slowly sat up on the crystal medical platform. His body still felt weak, but the alien healing threads had already repaired most of the damage from the explosion. He looked at the queen. "I'm just an engineer," Elias said carefully. "You're talking like I did something historic." The princess stepped forward before the queen could respond. "You did," she said softly. Her voice carried a quiet strength that made the entire room listen. "If you had not acted, I would be dead. And if I died here today, 3 empires would blame each other for the attack." She gestured toward the holographic star map floating in the center of the chamber. The map showed dozens of star systems, each marked with glowing symbols representing powerful alien civilizations. "War would have started within days," she continued, "and the galaxy would have burned." Elias looked at the map. Then he looked back at her. "So, I stopped a war by accident." One of the alien commanders let out a low sound that might have been amusement. The queen did not smile. "You did not stop it," she said calmly. "You delayed it." The holographic display shifted. Now new symbols appeared across the map. Fleet movements. Military build-ups. Secret alliances. "The attack on my daughter was only the opening move," the queen continued. "Someone wanted chaos. Someone still does." Elias felt a cold weight settle in his chest. "So why tell me all this?" he asked. The queen stepped closer. "Because you have now become part of the equation." She raised one elegant hand, and the hologram changed again. This time the display showed Earth. Human colonies. Trade routes. Small, scattered systems compared to the massive territories controlled by ancient alien empires. Humanity, the Queen said slowly, is one of the youngest species to reach interstellar travel. Your technology is impressive for your age. But politically. She paused. You are fragile. Elias knew she was telling the truth. Human space was constantly pressured by stronger alien powers. Human fleets were respected for their bravery, but rarely feared. You survive, the Queen continued, because humans are unpredictable. You adapt faster than older civilizations. But adaptation alone will not protect you forever. The princess looked at Elias again. My mother believes the galaxy is approaching a breaking point. The star map zoomed outward. Now it showed hundreds of systems. Multiple borders flashing red. Soon, the princess said quietly, someone will start a war that no empire can control. Elias rubbed his forehead. Okay, he said slowly. That sounds terrible. But I still don't understand where I fit into this. The Queen finally gave a faint smile. And that smile made several alien commanders look nervous. Under Aurelian law, she said, a life debt between royal blood and another being creates a sacred bond. It means the one who saved my daughter has the right to request anything. Elias blinked. Anything. Within reason, the Queen replied calmly. Elias leaned back, stunned. The most powerful ruler in the galaxy was offering him a wish. He could ask for wealth, power, citizenship inside the Aurelian Empire, even protection for Earth. But something inside him refused to think that way. He looked at the star map again. All those borders, all those tensions, all those civilizations preparing for war. Why offer this to me? He asked. The Queen answered without hesitation. Because you made a decision without calculating the reward. That is rare. The princess added quietly. And because humans think differently than most species. Elias raised an eyebrow. That's one way to say it. The Queen folded her hands behind her back. My advisors expected you to ask for riches or safety. But I suspect you will ask a more dangerous question. Elias tilted his head. What question? The Queen looked directly into his eyes. How can humanity survive what is coming? The room fell silent again. Elias felt the weight of the moment. He had spent his entire life fixing machines. Now he was being asked to help fix the galaxy. He looked at the holographic map one more time. Then something unexpected happened. Elias started to smile. The alien commanders exchanged confused glances. Why are you smiling? One of them asked. Elias shrugged. Because you're all thinking like ancient empires. The Queen's eyes narrowed slightly. Explain. Elias pointed at the map. You're all preparing for war. Yes, the Queen said. But humans are good at something else. And what is that? Elias leaned forward. Solving problems nobody else thought were solvable. The princess looked intrigued. What kind of solution? Elias tapped the map. Everyone here is trying to prevent the war by strengthening their fleets. Yes, the Queen said. That is logical. Elias shook his head. That's the problem. Now even the Queen looked curious. You believe our strategy is flawed. Elias nodded slowly. You're treating the galaxy like a battlefield. But humans learned something a long time ago. What? The princess asked. Elias looked at her. The best way to win a war is to make sure it never starts. The alien commanders began whispering to each other. Some sounded skeptical. Others sounded interested. The Queen remained completely still. Continue, she said. Elias pointed again at the star map. All these empires hate each other. Yes, the Queen replied. But they all depend on one thing. What? The princess asked. Trade, Elias said. The hologram changed again as he accessed the station's data network. Trade routes appeared across the map. Thousands of glowing lines connecting hundreds of civilizations. Every empire here needs resources from someone else, Elias continued. If those routes collapse, the entire galaxy collapses. The Queen watched carefully. You suggest controlling the trade network. Elias shook his head. No. He smiled again. I suggest something better. Humans rebuild it. The room went completely silent. Even the Queen looked surprised. You propose giving humans control of the galaxy's trade infrastructure. Elias nodded. Not control. Responsibility. The princess suddenly understood. Her eyes widened. If humanity becomes the neutral builders of trade networks, no empire can attack them, she finished, because everyone would lose access to the systems that keep their economies alive. Elias pointed at the map. Exactly. The Queen slowly walked around the holographic display, considering, calculating. Finally she stopped. You propose something extremely dangerous. Elias shrugged. Welcome to human problem-solving. The princess laughed quietly. For the first time since the explosion, the Queen turned back toward Elias. You are either brilliant or catastrophically foolish. Elias grinned. Usually both. The Queen looked toward her advisors, then back at Elias. If this works, she said slowly, humanity would become the most important civilization in the galaxy. Elias nodded. That's the idea. The Queen studied him for a long moment. Then she spoke the words that would change the balance of power forever. Very well. The Aurelian Empire will support your plan. And at that moment, humanity unknowingly took its first step toward becoming the most powerful force the galaxy had ever seen. News of the Queen's decision spread across the galaxy faster than any fleet could travel. Within minutes, diplomatic networks exploded with reactions. Alien councils paused their meetings. Military commanders stopped mid-strategy. Traders across dozens of worlds stared at their screens in disbelief. The Aurelian Empire, one of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in known space, had just announced support for a human proposal. And not a small proposal. A human plan to rebuild the entire galactic trade network. Many leaders thought it was madness. Others believed it was a trap. But the Queen of the Aurelians did not make careless decisions. Which meant something even more dangerous might be true. Maybe the human was right. Back inside the chamber on Gateway Halo Station, Elias Verne was already realizing what he had accidentally started. He looked at the massive star map still floating in the air. So, Elias said slowly, how long before half the galaxy decides this idea is a terrible one? The princess smiled slightly. They already have. Elias sighed. Good. At least they're consistent. The Queen stepped closer to the holographic map. Her presence alone seemed to calm the room. Every empire in this galaxy depends on trade, she said. Energy crystals from the Ketheri worlds. Food systems from the Lyrian colonies. Navigation data from the Voss consortium. The map shifted again, highlighting the glowing web of trade routes. Destroy the routes, the Queen continued, and entire civilizations collapse. Elias nodded. That's exactly why the plan works. Several alien commanders exchanged uncertain looks. One of them finally spoke. You are assuming the empires will cooperate with humanity. Elias shook his head. No. He pointed at the map again. I'm assuming they won't. The room fell silent. The princess tilted her head. Then explain. Elias zoomed the map toward the center of the galaxy. Gateway Halo Station appeared. Then several other neutral stations. Then dozens more scattered across space. These stations were built because nobody trusts anyone else, Elias said. Exactly, one commander replied. Elias smiled. But everyone trusts infrastructure. The alien officers frowned. He continued. Think about it. Nobody attacks a station that supplies oxygen, energy, and docking access to their own ships. The princess suddenly understood. Her eyes widened again. You're saying humans build the systems everyone depends on? Elias nodded. Trade relays, docking platforms, navigation networks, repair hubs. He leaned back slightly. If every empire uses them, then nobody can destroy them without hurting themselves. The Queen watched him carefully. You want humanity to become the connective tissue of the galaxy. Elias grinned. That's the nicest way anyone's ever said it. One of the alien commanders still looked skeptical. And why should we trust humans with this responsibility? Elias shrugged. Because we're the only ones nobody fears enough to attack first. A few quiet laughs moved through the room. Even the princess smiled again. But the Queen remained thoughtful. Finally she spoke. There is one problem. Elias raised an eyebrow. Only one. Many empires will refuse this plan simply because a human suggested it. Elias nodded. Yeah, that sounds about right. The princess crossed her arms. So how do we convince them? Elias looked at the map again. Then he pointed toward Gateway Halo Station. We don't convince them. The commanders looked confused. Then what do we do? Elias smiled slowly. We demonstrate. The Queen studied him carefully. You intend to begin construction immediately. Exactly. But you do not yet have resources, fleets, or infrastructure. Elias tapped the station blueprint floating beside the map. This place already does half the job. The hologram zoomed into the station's internal systems. Power grids, trade databases, docking networks, communication relays. All we need, Elias continued, is to upgrade the systems and connect them to the surrounding sectors. The princess looked impressed. You want Gateway Halo to become the first human-designed galactic trade hub. Elias nodded. And once it works, other stations will copy the model. One commander crossed his arms. And if the empires refuse? Elias gave a simple answer. Then their ships won't have anywhere to dock. The room went quiet again. It was a simple strategy, but terrifyingly effective. The Queen slowly nodded. You truly think like a human. Elias tilted his head. I'm still figuring out if that's a compliment. The princess laughed softly. It is. Then the chamber doors suddenly opened. A security officer rushed inside. Your Majesty, he said urgently. We are receiving transmissions from multiple governments. The Queen looked calm. Of course we are. The officer continued. The Voss Consortium demands to know why a human engineer is being granted imperial support. Another message appeared on the screen. The Ketheri Trade League wants to join the project. A third message followed. The Lyrian Council is requesting negotiations. Elias blinked. That was fast. The princess looked amused. Empires move quickly when money is involved. Elias rubbed the back of his neck. So, this might actually work. The Queen stepped closer to him. It will work, she said calmly, because you changed something fundamental today. Elias frowned slightly. What did I change? The Queen looked toward the holographic galaxy. For centuries, powerful civilizations believed strength meant domination. Her voice became quieter, but today the galaxy witnessed something different. She looked back at Elias, a human who risked everything to save someone he did not know. The princess placed a hand over her chest again. That moment changed how many species will see humanity. Elias shifted awkwardly. I just reacted. The Queen shook her head. That is precisely the point. The holographic map zoomed out again. Hundreds of star systems glowing. Trade routes forming like threads of light. You acted without calculation, the Queen said. And now the galaxy is calculating the consequences. Elias stared at the map. Human space was small compared to the ancient empires. But slowly, new trade lines were beginning to appear. Lines connecting human systems to alien ones. The first steps of something bigger. Something no empire had planned. The princess spoke softly. You saved my life. And in doing so, you may have saved the galaxy from destroying itself. Elias looked out the observation window of the station. Ships from dozens of civilizations were moving through space. Different shapes, different colors, different technologies, all sharing the same fragile network of trade and cooperation. For the first time, Elias understood the scale of what had started. He had only wanted to fix a power surge. Instead, he had accidentally started a revolution. A quiet one. A human one. The Queen stood beside him and spoke the final truth that many civilizations would one day repeat. Empires rise through power. But civilizations survive through connection. She looked at Elias one last time. And humans are very good at connecting things. Far across the galaxy, new trade stations would soon be built. Human engineers would design networks linking rival empires. Wars that once seemed inevitable would slowly fade into negotiations. And every historian would trace the beginning of that change back to one moment. One explosion. One impossible decision. And one ordinary human who refused to step back. Because on that day, the galaxy finally learned something important about humanity. Humans do not conquer the stars. They rebuild them.
Pinche calor, imagínate. Ah, de veras, Evil, imagínate que te eches un toquecito, compadre, y te quedes viendo el lago de allá. Oh, espérate, güey, ahorita que me regrese, güey. Imagínate esa vista diario, compadre. No, bien a gusto para andar con los huevos de fuera en el pasto, cara. Que se te suban las perras hormigas al pito, güey. Chingue su madre. Vale, verga, cabrón. No le contestan, güey. Ahora, ¿qué tiene de malo? ¿Y si mejor no? Sí, compadre, ¿qué tiene de malo? Sirve que se le hace más grande del hinchazón y se va con una viejilla por ahí. No. Gracias por ese follow, Confitex. Bienvenido. Pinche Iron, güey. Espérate, güey. Hola, neto. ¿Qué pasa? Güey, el Iron me hace un puto desesperado, güey. ¿Qué le pasa? Oh. ¿Por qué no? Es que no le contestan, güey. Me da risa, güey, que lo canjea y luego lo primero que dice es: pásale, pásale, sí, pásale. Pinche perro, desgraciado. A ver, aguántame, déjale, digo al guardia. Hermano, ¿ves? Así se abren a la verga. Blip.
Carnal, ¿qué le corres? Es un kit cooperando, ya te la sabes, carnal.
Espérame. Hermano, 802 interior A12. ¿Eh? Ah, Ricardo. ¿Cómo? ¿No te mandé? Ah, pues nada más me dice 802 interior A12.